Good evening and welcome to this special edition of Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. This evening's show is a debate sponsored by the Citizens Clean Elections Commission. Tonight we'll hear from the Republican candidates for State Superintendent of Public Instruction. They are, in alphabetical order, Margaret Dugan, a former teacher and school administrator who is currently the state's Deputy Superintendent of Public Instruction, John Huppenthal, a state senator who chairs the Senate's Education Committee, and Beth Price, a retired community college administrator. Each candidate will have 1 minute for opening and closing statements. Earlier, we drew numbers to see who goes first, and that honor goes to Beth Price.
Thank you very much for having us here. It's wonderful to be able to present our ideas, and we all have good ideas. I really was a community college administrator, but I'm retired now, and I have worked in K through 12 for 6 years since I retired, and also did assessment scoring for different states through Pearson. So I've been very busy trying to find out what's going on in education. When I was in the community college, I was an institutional researcher, which means that I gave assessments, or at least analyzed assessments, to find out where our students were coming in. They were coming in late.
Okay, and we have to stop you right there because your minute for opening statements is up. Our next opening statement comes from, I believe it's Margaret, correct?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hi. Thank you, Ted. Throughout my career, I have championed measures that have brought about the highest quality education to our classrooms. I was the co-chair and co-author of the 2000 initiative, which eliminated bilingual education and required English as a language of instruction in our Arizona schools. As a former teacher, principal, district administrator, and now currently the deputy superintendent at the Arizona Department of Education, I know firsthand the keys to learning can be found in conservative principles: a dedicated principal, effective teachers, a comprehensive curriculum, a strong discipline program, and motivated students. In fact, I was recognized in a nationally acclaimed book, 10 Traits of Highly Effective Principals, for making those 5 conservative principles work in 2 different high schools.
All right, thank you very much. And now for a 1 minute opening statement, John Huppenthal.
Hello, I'm John Huppenthal. I'm chairman of the Senate Education Committee. I live in Chandler with my amazing wife, Jennifer, and my 2 beautiful daughters, Brooke and Morgan. But I grew up in South Tucson, one of 11 children in a poor family that focused more on putting food on the table than in formal education. My high school wrestling coach changed all that. He enrolled me in the College of Engineering at NAU. Thank you, Jack, for showing me the tremendous difference that one teacher can make in the life of a child. Over the last 18 years, I've been a leading education reformer in Arizona. Of the top 5 school districts, 4 of them use my education reform legislation to increase academic achievement, meet high standards, and support teachers in the classroom. As your superintendent of public instruction, I will spread the methods of these top schools across the whole state so that every child can have the quality education that he or she deserves.
All right, very good. Thank you all for your opening statements. Let's go ahead and get the conversation started. Beth, the state of education in Arizona, how would you improve education in the state?
Well, I do have a plan already in place to bring up students 2 grades in 1 year. This will eliminate having students be remediated, and when they're ready to go into 9th grade, they are ready. And that will change education.
Okay. Margaret, the overall state of education right now, lots of critics out there regarding education in Arizona. What do you see? What needs to be improved?
Well, I think that's one of the biggest misnomers out in our public, is that all of the schools in Arizona are abysmal, and that's not true. We have a lot of great schools in Arizona, and I would like to dispel that myth. We have some schools that are doing fantastic, and we have some schools that need some help, and that's what I'd like to do. In fact, I do have a track record. If you look at my track record as a high school administrator, I turned around 2 different high schools that were low performing, and I turned around to become high achievement schools. And that's what I would like to do, is to go into our schools that have low achievement and really do an audit to see what is causing their low achievement. And I can really very quickly identify what is making schools that are low performance, and it really will probably be one of those 5 elements that I shared with you earlier. Is it a principal that is not being effective, or teachers that are not being effective in the classroom? And we need to really look at that from the State Department and then give those schools the assistance and resources they need. One of the things that I did in both of those schools is to make sure that the teachers were teaching the academic standards, and then making sure that the students were held accountable for learning those standards. And if they weren't, then those schools were then to put in interventions to help the slower learners pick up and learn the academic standards that the schools intended to teach those students.
John, the state of education in Arizona. Again, lots of critics don't like what they see. What about you?
I think we can learn some lessons from other states. We have some states that have really been moving, and one is Florida. The lesson from Florida is you have to have very top-notch accountability system. And this year I put through legislation that's going to enable us not just to hold schools accountable, but school districts. We've never done that before in Arizona. With my legislation, we're going to have a clear letter grade system for every school district, A through F, based on their ability to move students up academically. We have school districts like the Tucson Unified School District, where the typical student degenerates every single year, actually moves down relative to their peers. That accountability system has galvanized Florida. Their literacy rates have moved 30%. For low-income and minority kids, have moved 30% relative to Arizona.
I want to get back to Florida in a second, but Margaret, regarding accountability, and you mentioned good teachers and good principals, how do you measure a good teacher? How do you measure a good principal?
Well, first of all, you measure good teachers by, first of all, having a competent principal that knows good instruction in the classroom, and also having assessments at the formative assessments throughout the school year, and then a summative evaluation like the Ames test at the end of the year that you can gauge to see whether or not the students are learning the intended outcomes. How you gauge those teachers' also effectiveness is also through classroom management of learning and discipline. And there are other metrics that you, as a principal, can measure your teacher effectiveness. There's teaming. There were 3 ways that I instituted in both schools that I was a leader. One of the things you need to do is look at your data each year on your test results. You need to identify the goals that you want your teachers to identify each year, and then set those goals for the following year. And every year you look at results, and you have teacher teams working together. And as a principal, you set those goals with your teachers and work as teams in order to create teaming with your teachers. And without that teaming and looking at results and setting goals, you're not going to move academic achievement. And those are the things that have to happen.